Hi everybody, welcome back. We're going to go over a full unboxing for Startrekattackwing Federation Faction Pack number 2, Lost in the Delta Quadrant. I know if you were on Facebook, I shared like half the cards, kind of showed through things pretty quickly. We're going to go through all the cards. I'll give you some notes and my thoughts on each of the cards while we showcase the ships and the contents of the pack. So let's open this thing up and see what's inside. By now, everyone should be getting theirs. It's been out for about a month now. Let's see. Let's take out the Equinox first. Equinox, awesome in its silver paint job. Nice to have it back again. But it makes for a good wedge when we want to pull out the other ships. Delta Flyer. Delta Flyer's model is quite nice. I've always been a big fan of that ship. The Intrepid class. USS Voyager. Nice, good silver paint job there. And the Airy class. Nice silver paint job there. Good to have the USS Raven. Its deck plate is punched correctly, so it will actually fit on the base now. Cardboard elements. We've got our standard dials. Some of our Captain Punch-Outs for Tom Paris, Tuvok, initiative tokens. These are tokens that are used in the Lost in the Delta Quadrant campaign. I believe these are resource tokens and these are star chart tokens. On the backside of the initiative tokens will be Night Shift for one of the new game mechanics. Here we have the new Impulse Roll maneuver, all of the deck plates, the rest of the captain tokens, and some reminder tokens for several of the crew, as well as the double-sided ambassador token. Here we have Chakotay, Harry Kim, Rudolph Ransom, Captain Janeway, Magnus Hansen, and the Doctor. Double side there. Our usual pegs, bases, and don't forget that at the bottom of each of these faction packs, you're going to find the campaign booklet. So make sure that you do not throw away your package, because this is where you will find the book. Which we'll just take that out for right now. Let me take a look. There's a lot of cards. Technically 60 unique cards, not including the rule cards and the maneuver dial cards. We're going to go through each one. All right, so card number 1 is the USS Voyager. This one we dubbed in design and playtesting early season Voyager. This is because it's meant to capture the feeling of being alone or being a lone player on the table. So as an action, it will increase the ship's agility by 1 and repair either a hull or a shield, your choice. But if you are the only ship within range, friendly ship, within range 1 to 2, this is a free action instead. This will capture the feeling of kind of being by yourself. It works very well in the campaign because you're constantly able to heal off the damage, which is sustained, by the way, from mission to mission, keeping your agility up and obviously being able to do it for free. So you don't lose action economy when you do this. On the reverse side, you're going to have the generic Intrepid class for 23 points, which is a pretty good discount for the generic. So now you'll have a new one that you can use for Star Trek Alliance. Also in the pack, card number 2 is the original USS Voyager from the Voyager expansion pack. This one we dubbed Late Season Voyager, obviously by the paneling of the ablative generator that you see on the art. This one is the classic one where it can fire outside of its primary arc in range 1 to 2 at the cost of placing an aux. It just has nice cleaned up wording. It is 26 points. It is an errata to the original, so all the text and point cost that you see on this one will replace the original. Instead of doing a generic on the back side, we opted to give you another USS Voyager. This one is the Year of Hell Voyager, 25 points. It is dual faction, mirror, and federation. When you're building with it, you can select any number of your upgrades to reduce the point cost of the upgrade by 2. And then at the start of the game, you suffer damage to your hull or shields, whatever way that you'd like, for each upgrade you discounted. So if you want, you can discount about everything on the ship and bring yourself to one hull. Very dangerous, obviously, unless you're going to build with some way to heal the starship. So be careful with that. But I imagine that this one will see a considerable amount of play because of all the fun stuff that you can get on there. And cheap, too. The last Intrepid class we have in here is the USS Intrepid, NCC 74600. So the reason why it is like that is because we already have a USS Intrepid in the game, but the Fed prototype, it ignores the registry number for equipping it. So this will still be a Federation prototype for you to utilize. Now what's fun about this ship is this one dips more into beta canon. So since it's the prototype of the ship, a lot of the cards unique to the Intrepid class or primarily for it, like the Bioneural Circuitry and the Veritable Geometry Pylons, you'll get a discount for putting them onto the ship, which is part of its first ability. The second ability is where we dip heavily into beta canon, which the ship was known for patrolling the Romulan neutral zone. So because of that, and we gave Romulans so much fun toys to play with, especially with the Romulan cloaking device in the Secrets of the Tal Shiar faction pack, we wanted to make sure that you had some way to kind of interact with that. So in this case, this one will target a ship during the playing phase and restrict their sensor echo to using only the one forward. If the ship you target is Romulan, you can target another ship. So you can try to keep tabs on the Romulan players while they're sneaking around on the board. Our next ship is the Nova class. Now we've talked about this in several of the other videos. The Nova class itself got a rework, being that not only did it get a point reduction, but to kind of compete better within that point slot and against, say, the Miranda and a few other ships, it has a generic ship ability, which this ship ability is on all the named versions, so the USS Nova, the USS Equinox, as well as all generics, which is the ship doesn't skip its perform action step when overlapping an obstacle. You can use that when you're playing the generic in Alliance if you want to play down. It's quite fun. The actual Equinox's ability is based off of its unethical warp drive that it has, so it will target a ship and shove a crew into the engine during the reveal dial step and increase the speed of maneuver, but the ship suffers damage because the aliens started attacking. This is a quite powerful devious ship because obviously you can target your own, you can target enemy ships, which will be where its use will come in. Next we have the USS Nova. The USS Nova, being a prototype, can have the Federation prototype equipped to it. It still has that generic ship ability. The cool thing about this one is, like the other USS Intrepid we were talking about, which is a support ship found in the Vulcan faction pack, this one is very similar, being that it has a free action at the cost of an Ox to give out scan tokens. Now, the Intrepid would give out a scan and evade to itself and another friendly ship. The Nova, on the other hand, will target all friendly ships within range and give them a scan token, including itself. So this will give you a lot more variety of giving out tokens to the entire fleet, but it's limited in the fact that it is only scan tokens. But there are some quite good uses for this. Our only copy of the Aerie class in here is the USS Raven. This one is quite interesting. It's meant to stay close to starships and kind of annoy them with those double tech slot that it has. You're able to take more disruptive tech on board or disruptive crew member, fly it next to an enemy starship, not be able to be attacked because of the combat phase. You'll target a ship and not be attacked. Unless it's the only ship left, then when they attack you, they get -3. So use this as a fun disrupt ship or support ship within your fleet. It is an auxiliary ship, so you must have a capital ship to play it. The generic on the back here, 7 points. Next we have the Delta Flyer. This is an errata to the original, so it is also an auxiliary ship. It is no longer a shuttlecraft, so it will not do any of the docking or launching procedures. You just have to have a capital ship to take it. This is an errata to the original. It can fire its primary weapon outside of its secondary arc, but it suffers a -1 penalty, so it's quite fun to use. It's only 12 points, which is pretty good for the name, especially since the generic is 11. So technically you're getting a slot, a shield, and the ability to utilize that secondary arc. Quite fun. The one that is really special is the Delta Flyer 2, though. This one has an additional slot to the other Delta Flyer, which is very similar to the original LE version of the Delta Flyer 2. It also has a much spicier ability, being that it can trigger several abilities off of doing either the evade action or the target lock action, granting a sensor echo followed by placing a battle stations token, which, since the ship doesn't have the battle stations action, this is a good way to get it, and keeping it very maneuverable on the board. Our captains, we have Captain Catherine Janeway for 5 points, skill 9. She's quite fun. I know I've seen a lot of players wonder, well, doesn't the opponent have complete control over her ability? It's like, well, technically yes, the opponent has control over whether that ability will go off or not. But that doesn't mean that the ability is not necessarily working. Janeway's whole purpose was to get her crew home and to get them back safely. So she's kind of putting this psychological protection down on your crew, because if the opponent should decide they want to mess with them in any way, she will attack them. And if she's on Voyager, it can be 360. And this could be any Voyager, including the Borgified Voyager from the Borg faction pack, which is a lot stronger and nastier. Good old Rudolph Ransom, captain of the Equinox. I quite like this one. He's more points than the original one. Still same skill, but he grants a crew slot. And defensively, he will give an attacker, as long as he's near an obstacle, an auxiliary power token. In addition to that, he's equipped to a Nova class, be it the generic, the named, or the Equinox. He will also make them roll -1 attack dice. This is very fitting to both his Starfleet information when Janeway was looking him up on how he dealt with enemy ships attacking him. This also works very well to how he played on screen when Voyager was trying to ambush him. He just went into the atmosphere of a planet, dodged out of that. Next we have Magnus Hansen. He's 1 point skill 2 captain. He's restricted to a 3-hull or less ship. It's probably going to be the Raven. This one's quite interesting. Because him specifically, he can be basically greater than the captain skill of the captain that he's near. This will synergize quite well with the Raven as well as his wife Erin Hansen, as their whole idea is to study the other ship or to stay next to them on the table. This will let you move after them to make sure that you can follow them, do whatever the actions are that you're planning to do with perhaps some of the tech upgrades that you have or other crew that you put onto the ship. And of course, if the ship that you're near happens to be Borg or have a Borg captain, you will time token one of their upgrades. Captain Chakotay. Captain Chakotay is quite fun. He is dual faction, Federation, and Independent. Captain skill 7. He grants a crew slot. And if you have a scan token when he's attacking, 1 hit or crit cannot be canceled. This is quite well on the Maquis Raiders, like the Going, because obviously he is a Maquis captain as well. That ship needs to hit to trigger its ability. Well, I mean, basically you're going to hit as long as you get the scan token, so you can get that ability off. But it gives you more consistent damage, per se, that you want to actually get something through. It works well if you're trying to trigger an effect. On the reverse side, here will be Crew Chakotay, who is one of the first officers, which first officer we went through in the These Are the Rules video. It just means that if something were to happen to your captain, he will flip and take over as the captain instead. If you have an admiral, you decide the order that you would wish to do this. You could have flip and have the admiral take over, or you could have the first officer take over. That's entirely up to you, and you decide. His ability that you see here is an action. He triple time tokens himself to target an enemy captain and put 2 time tokens on them. So he kind of uses his wits to disarm other captains. He has a good pairing with the Crew Tuvok in this pack, as well as William Telfer, who can take those time tokens for him instead. So you'll see a lot of cool, neat combos like that. Next we have Captain Tom Paris, who is restricted to a hull 3 or less. He is quite interesting. For the reveal dial step, you can just disregard your maneuver and do the white impulse roll, or you can do a red 5 forward maneuver. And if equipped to a Delta Flyer class, you also get to place an evade token. This makes the Delta Flyer highly maneuverable, also a little bit more defensive, but he's going to be quite good on a lot of smaller ships. And if you plan to do any of those fun race scenarios, which there is one in the Lost in the Delta Quadrant campaign, that will be quite well. On the other side is Tom Paris' crew, which start a combat phase, you can spend an evade token. Get this in here. Spend an evade token to either do a center echo action for free, or you can do a left or right white bank. Gives you some maneuverability before the fighting starts. Good old Captain Harry Kim. He was WizKids' first preview. He is showing off the night shift mechanic, which I've seen people not really like the night shift mechanic or assume that it's more like time tokens. Well, time tokens are really more of a countdown mechanic. Night shift is meant to utilize some design space that we had available, which was the initiative token. The initiative token wasn't really being used other than when you're trying to break the captain skills or simultaneous effects of abilities. But we wanted it to do something while it's being passed around. So the night shift represents this. You don't necessarily look at it as like, oh, we're playing through days of the game. It's just that these characters are the ones that tend to get a little bit better when, say, the captain is down. So in this case, he is going to be a captain skill 5 during night shift turn, and he'll get an additional ability to the ability that he normally triggers. This will go on top of whatever it does. There are a few other night shift cards. But on the other side, we have Crew Harry Kim. Crew Harry Kim is a combo enabler. He's quite fun. So whenever you would place, each time you place a scan token beside the ship, you may remove a disabled upgrade token from either a Federation tech or a Federation crew upgrade, which there are several fun combinations in here. I think some of the better ones include Crew Tuvok with him, as well as Crew 7 of 9 and the Bioneural circuitry, because Bioneural can disable itself. Harry Kim can remove the disable token. You also have 7, who's literally dropping extra scan tokens if you wish, and you can trigger all of these effects and remove disable tokens. Quite fun. Speaking of Tuvok, we have Captain Tuvok. Captain Tuvok is dual faction, Vulcan and Federation. He's very interesting as well. He works well probably on, I'd say, in this pack, a lot of the, well, in this pack it's going to be the Nova classes. He works pretty decently so if you're using the ablative generator, because your shields are probably disabled. You can still spend disabled shield with his effect, because when defending, you can either disable 2 of your shields to cancel a hit or crit, or you may spend a shield and a scan token beside the ship to cancel a hit or crit. Well, this will add to the bulk of the ship if you're using, say, the ablative generator, and you're not going to want to use those shields anyways. Or, in the case of putting them on Vulcan ships, you can get a lot of synergy with having multiple scan tokens available. On the Equinox, or the Nova classes in general, they have a card to just repair shields as is. You can also try them on the Prometheus too, which will just constantly get shields back. But it's pretty good if you're going to just keep using that to negate A damage. The crew side is what we call Combo Tuvok. He is an action disable. You can do the target lock action or battle stations action, then perform the action of a crew upgrade equipped to the ship. So this lets you do multiple things. One of the biggest combos we have in here is him with 7 of 9. You can take the battle stations or target lock action, trigger 7 of 9's action, which is a scan. Once you place a scan token, the other Harry Kim will just remove the disable token from Tuvok, which is quite fun. The Doctor, probably one of the spiciest captains we've made in a long time. The Doctor is quite fun. It represents him being the emergency command hologram. So he has the knowledge from the computer of the tactical database dealing with all the Federation captains or tactics. And he used it in, I believe, Workforce Part 1 and 2. So in this case, you may set up, put exactly two Federation captains with a combined cost of 6 SP underneath him. You still have to obey the unique rule, so you can't put these captains in your fleet if you're already using them, and they obviously cannot be a captain that you already have in your fleet. He gets the text and restrictions of both of the captains. So like in this pack, if you were to take, say, Magnus Hansen and Captain Janeway, Magnus Hansen is only allowed to go on a 3-hull or less ship. So if you put both of them under the Doctor, it would have to go on either the Delta Flyer or the Equinox, for example, if you wanted the Doctor to utilize both of those. And they would equal 6, and they're both Federation captains. But there are a lot of fun combinations you can discover, and a lot of really neat ones. The other side, we have question mark upgrade Doctor, who can count as either a tech or a crew. He is pretty interesting. If an opposing effect would discard a crew equipped to the ship, he actually puts the crew member underneath him, and then as an action, he can re-equip the crew with 2 time tokens. This works with a very particular combo in here from an episode that he's part of with Ani Jatal. So Ani Jatal usually will discard herself if something in your fleet would get discarded crew-wise. This can help you trigger Janeway to make her 360 attack, even if they were trying to disrupt a friendly ship nearby. The Doctor will then save Ani, and then you can recur her later and try the combo again. Now we're on to the rest of the crew. We have some of the Equinox crew. Maxwell Burke. He's pretty good. 3 points. As an action, you target a ship within range, and you can steal either a Federation tech or Federation crew upgrade and equip to the ship ignoring restrictions. This is very strong. I know it seems restricted because it's only Federation, but as a lot of players have pointed out, Federation have the most cards and usually are quite common to find in the game as is, so he gives some disruption to the Federation players. And it's pretty thematic too, since he stole Voyager's shield tech and by happenstance 709 as well. Marla Gilmore is another Equinox crew member. She's quite fun. She gives you a tech slot, and as a free action, you could discard a tech equipped to the ship to perform a green maneuver and place an evade token. This works pretty well with Maxwell Burke. You can steal their tech and then discard it to just get out of there to just get an evade. Noah Lessing. Noah Lessing is pretty interesting. So he, at the plan phase, has to spend a shield. This is going to work just fine on Nova classes. You can also put them on the Prometheus to either remove an auxiliary power token, and of course if you're on a Nova class, you'll get a scan, or you target an enemy ship within range. That enemy ship cannot place scan tokens beside them or perform the scan action. So it works quite well for countering anyone trying to do scan combos and a lot of the Vulcan players. Last, the Equinox crew, we have Thompson. Thompson is whenever you'd place a scan token beside the ship, you can put 2 time tokens on him to place an evade. Just adds more bulk to the Equinox. Works pretty well if you have Rudolph Ransom and Noah Lessing. Erin Hansen, she is restricted to the Aerie class, which makes sense. She basically says that as long as you target a captain who's skill 5 or greater, and you move after them, which works pretty well with Magnus Hansen, you can take an extra maneuver. So if they tried, this works pretty good if you're trying to lock down Romulans or Borg doing spin maneuvers. If they take extra maneuvers or whatnot, you can still move after them, then take the extra maneuver to reposition yourself so that way you can keep, say, the Raven at range 1 before the combat phase. That way you won't be shot at. Or if you still need to trigger like some of your effects. And of course, if the ship that you're trying to move after happens to be Borg or have a Borg captain, then you get to place a time token on upgrade. Now, we talked about her briefly with the Doctor, but Ani Jatal. She is one of the lower deckers. Lower decks keyword characters mean that you can have 2 of them fill a single crew slot on the ship as long as they share a faction with the ship. She specifically will work within range 1 to 3. If an enemy would try to steal or discard a crew upgrade from a friendly ship, she has to be the target. And then when she is targeted to be stolen or discarded, you place time tokens on either a crew upgrade or a question mark upgrade. This works perfectly from the episode that she's from, where she caused the ethical dilemma within the Doctor, who was the question mark upgrade, because she died instead of Harry Kim, and it caused him to go into a feedback loop. Other lower deckers from the Good Shepherd, we have Tal Celis. For 1 point, not bad. Dual faction, Federation Bajoran, free action, perform the scan action. You just got to place 3 time tokens on her. Works quite well with William Telfer. Whenever a Federation crew would place 3 or more time tokens on them, place them on him. He was the hypochondriac, so he would often try to find any excuse to not be in an away mission. So he'll happily take the time tokens and sit out. But he also specifically would help Tal Celis with all of her work. The last of the Good Shepherd crew, Mortimer Heron. So at the start of the combat phase, you spend a scan token beside the ship, and you target a ship within range. This could be an enemy or friendly, and you remove either of the tokens that you see listed. Obviously, if you're targeting a friendly ship, you would remove the Ox, because that's probably the most beneficial for you. But you can disrupt enemy ships. Next we have Timothy Lang. Timothy Lang is a lower decker, plus he is night shift. So for 1 point, you're just getting a captain skill buff. On the night shift turns, you get this fun action where you can target a ship within range and disable a crew upgrade on them because he's a security officer. You're starting to notice too, it's like, man, this guy is so cheap. Well, the night shift part of their text is normally essentially for free, because this is going to happen every other turn unless a player is manipulating the initiative token with, say, coffee. He has the most synergy with the person he worked with, which is Jenkins and Captain Harry Kim. He'll give Harry Kim a skill boost on either side that's working. So when he's on night shift turns, he'll be a 6, and non-night shift turns, he'll be a 4, and providing a decent action for Harry to use. The last one for Harry's crew was Jenkins, which Jenkins is quite fun. Reveal dial step, place time tokens on her, and you can increase the speed of your maneuver, and it stays the same color as the original. On night shift turns, if you execute a non-red maneuver, you get to remove an Ox. This will help trigger Harry Kim's ability because he needs to remove an Ox to be able to place the tokens. Also, the ability to increase the speed works quite well with, say, variable geometry pylons. Rule of 3 works for movement, so you can end up adding +2 with that card and her. So you can just select something like, say, a 2 bank, and all of a sudden perform a 4 bank out of nowhere, and your opponent was not expecting that. So we have Balana Torres, who is dual faction Federation Klingon. The first effect really works with all the tech that's in here. So during the end phase, you can disable her to remove a time token from each tech upgrade equipped to the ship. Variable geometry pylons is a dual time token. You also have the astrometrics lab, which puts 3, and bioneurosurgery can put 3 as well. She'll help you keep these upgrades able to move and work, and if you pair her with the crew Harry Kim, you can remove the disable token just by taking scan actions or placing them. The other part of her effect is really good with your Hell Voyager, or when you're playing the campaign and in a pinch. You can discard a tech upgrade at any time, it's once per game, and you repair a number of hull or shields equal to the half of the printed SP of the upgrade rounded up. So there's a couple of like 5-point tech upgrades in here, which will give you 3 on your repair. Kess, 2-point dual faction independent Federation crew upgrade. Her ability is a triple time token, but she can peek at any dial anywhere in play. So no matter what someone's trying, you can take a look at the dial. If they happen to be the faction that she has listed, she will get an additional effect. This will probably come more into play when you're actually using the Delta Quadrant campaign, because most of the time players are going to want to play thematic and utilize those ship types. Also, she is part of having one of the major rewards, as she helped to sling Voyager across Borg space. Ooh, 709. This 709 is so good. A 3-point dual faction Federation Borg. She can give you either a tech or a Borg slot, and as an action, she performs a scan action as a free action. This will work quite well, as we talked about with Harry Kim. It works very well with the Astrometrics Lab, but if she's equipped to an Intrepid class, you can place another scan token or an evade, which helps if you want to utilize, let's say, early season Voyager. You want to be more defensive. And the last part is, if the ship is a Borg ship, you get to place a Battle Stations token. So a couple of things. This will let you use her in your Borg fleets and get battle stations which they don't normally have access to. In other ways, there is a Borgified Voyager, so you will trigger all 3 effects on that ship, which is extremely good and dangerous to have to fight 7 just on Borgager. We have the Season 1, Episode 1 Bridge Officers, Aaron Cavitt. Aaron Cavitt, like most first officers, doesn't have the trait, but he does grant a crew slot. If you execute a speed 5 or greater maneuver, place an Ox, discard him, and place one of each of the standard tokens. You end up just alpha striking over to the opponent's side, get all the tokens, your Ox, but your first officer died. It happens. Veronica Stadi is the helmsman during Season 1, Episode 1. As an action, you can place an Ox, discard her, execute a 5 speed or greater maneuver, but if you're equipped with the Fed prototype, you can perform any maneuver. Thematically, this is from Beta Canon, where she is the test pilot for the USS Intrepid class. So this will give that ship a little bit more flexibility if you wish. But as a whole, it lets you do some cool combos with especially early season Voyager, which I'll show you that in a moment. Last, we have the USS Voyager CMO. Free action, discard this card, this ship suffers 1 damage, perform any available action. So with him, there's a lot of neat stuff specifically that you can do. You can, if you want to just reenact Season 1, Episode 1, you can take early season Voyager, you can do his action to an action on your action bar, say battle stations or evade, because you're gonna leap out towards the opponent. So take the evade action. He dies, he deals 1 damage to the ship. For free, do early season Voyager's action, repair the damage he just dealt, increase your agility. Then as the actual ship action, use Veronica Stadi, take the extra 5 or 6 maneuver that you already preferably performed. You get oxed, oh well, it happens. And then trigger Aaron Cavitt because you executed a 5 or greater maneuver, place another ox, place one of each of the other tokens. Then you got +1 green dice when you're against the enemy. You probably have an extra of whichever token you felt necessary, and you're right up in the opponent's face. You can do all kinds of stuff there. Drop antimatter mine, shoot somebody with a transphasic torpedo, all kinds of stuff. Our only elite talent is Tactical Superiority Commander. This one is 2 points. It is restricted to a captain with a captain skill of 8 or greater, which in this pack would be the Doctor or Janeway. The reason for the title comes from the Equinox episode where the 2 captains, Rudolph Ransom and Janeway, couldn't agree on who actually has say when it comes to 2 ships, and it falls to the captain who's on the ship with the tactical superiority. So this is Janeway. So if you were the only ship within range that has that level of attack power or primary weapon value, you get +1 attack. So as long as yours is higher than theirs. Our first weapon, oh boy, the transphasic torpedoes. 1 per ship, 5 points, dual faction, mirror, and federation. You do not need a target lock to fire this, you just discard the torpedo. Its value is equal to the printed hull of the target +1. So there's a couple reasons for why we did this. The torpedo, we want it to still be strong, but not so much like 10 dice like the original one was, where it's just throwing 10 dice at whatever. It's supposed to be strong just against like larger scale ships. So how do we make a torpedo that shoots the Borg effectively, but doesn't just blow away science vessels for no apparent reason? And that's where this card comes in. The bigger the ship you shoot at, the more dice you get. The bigger the ship you put on it, the better quality, because the first effect will let you reroll blanks equal to your primary weapon value. The secondary effect is the higher ceiling for damage. Every crit that you have will ignore their shields. So the torpedo can be upwards devastating, especially against Borg ships. And you have some pretty decent quality out of it. The gravimetric torpedoes, 4 points, restricted to a ship with a hull of 4 or greater, can fire from forward or rear arc. This one's quite fun. It's clearly for Voyager in this pack. It's 6 dice. When you shoot at a target, you will ox them and each enemy ship, well actually any ship within range of them, so be careful of your friendlies being too close to the target. But what makes this one specifically unique is that it is a weapon upgrade with an action, and the action will remove the weapon from the game to target a non-planet obstacle or minefield obstacle. You will deal 1 damage to all ships within range 1 of the obstacle, then you remove that obstacle from play. So obviously the reason why we chose remove this card from the game is so it could not be recurred, because we didn't want players to just blow up every single one of the standard obstacles from the board and then have this open play space. I mean, you could still take a bunch of these if you want and do that, but there have to be some type of limitations to it. Next we have the Delta Flyer's unique weapon, the photonic missiles. This one is a dual time token, forward or rear arc, 4 dice. It has 2 effects. When you declare a target step, you will destroy an active shield on the target and then deal damage step. If they don't have any active shields, you ox them. You could get both effects to go off. If they only had the 1 shield, you just auto destroy it, roll and deal your damage, then also ox them. Either effect will work when you're shooting through any type of weird obstacle or something would not allow you to deal damage. You can still destroy that shield. Temporal shielding. This is a 5-point tech upgrade, dual faction. Increases your ship's shields by 1. And your shields cannot be ignored by weapon upgrades. It's thematically against the chronoton torpedoes. It works well also against the transphasic torpedoes. And during the end phase, as long as you have active shields, you get to remove an additional time token from one of the upgrades equipped to your ship or the ship card itself, should your ship have time tokens on it. One of the other errated cards is multi-adaptive shields. The errata is that this is 1 per ship instead of unique. Increases your ship's shield value, and when defending, as long as you have shields, you roll +1 defense dice, and your full defense against minefields and ships that have scan tokens beside them. This one's very fun. The bioneurocartography, 2 points. So this one has 2 specific effects. The first one being a disable, and this allows you to do an action on your action bar or your ship card as a free action. The other effect is triple time token, but it allows you to still do the action on your action bar or your ship card even if you have an auxiliary power token. So a lot of different ships will get certain uses out of this. Obviously several of the crew inside the pack can interact with this card based off which version you choose to use. Obviously B'Elanna will remove extra time tokens. Harry Kim can re-enable the card. You have a lot of cool stuff. Also, you pay more for this card if it is not equipped to an Intrepid class, a Sovereign class, or a Luna class. It is just future proofing at the moment, but there is a lot of neat ships that you can put it on. Only for the Intrepid class, we have the Variable Geometry Pylons, 2 points. Reveal dial step, place 2 time tokens on this card. You may increase or decrease the speed of your maneuver by 1. It stays the same color as the revealed maneuver. This is one of the few ways you can get Voyager to just do a 1 forward. It helps make you have more flexibility for your maneuver, especially if you're playing the Intrepid class and in the campaign. You might need this to help you. There are a few like sector conditions that will impact your maneuvers or even make them random, like chaotic space. So this can help give you some sense of control back to the ship. The Astrometrics Lab, restricted to a fed ship with a hull of 4 or greater. It does replace itself by giving another tech slot. When you perform the scan action, you can triple time token it to do a sensor echo with the 1 template, even if you're not cloaked. It also has the same restrictions on it. Well, the same point increase restrictions. So it will cost more if it's not on an Intrepid, a Sovereign, or a Luna. This one is very fun, especially with 7 of 9, or if you have Tuvok as the captain who wants to benefit from these scan tokens. You can do all kinds of neat stuff with this, and really just have some awesome flexibility with your positioning. Like, use that with Tom Paris and the Intrepid and go ham. The rechargeable shield emitters. This is locked to the Nova class. Obviously, when we made such a big change to the Equinox, and the original Equinox being popular and pretty fun to use, we wanted to still get that feel of the ship repairing itself. So this will increase the shield value by 1, and as an action, you place an ox and you repair 2 shields. Our other question mark card is Coffee Black, restricted to a Fed captain for 1 point. Does not take up a slot and has a night shift ability. You can put 2 time tokens on it to remove an ox or place a scan, which works pretty well with Harry Kim. The other effect is at any time, if you have the initiative token, you can discard this card to pass the initiative token to the opponent to your left. In case of multiplayer and you have multiple opponents, it will always go to the one to your left. This will help extend your night shift abilities if you wish, because when you have the initiative token, your night shift card should not work. So, and this is just 1 per ship, so you can have this on a bunch of your ships in your fleet, and this extend it for as many turns as you wish to do. Our only Borg slot upgrade is the Transwarp Coil. It's 1 per ship. It is an action for 2 points. Okay, get this to go in there. There we go. If it's not equipped to a Borg ship, you have to discard it. But you get to execute a maneuver at the same speed equal to the one you revealed, but you treat this one as red. It's basically, well, it's a lot like the slam maneuver almost from X-Wing, but this one was to kind of help. We originally were working on it to help Borg kind of fix that spin maneuver where they now spin after. Doing this, you can then do the spin maneuver, rotate, then execute the extra maneuver and actually be in the position that you wanted to be in. But it felt fine to put it in this pack since we had 7 give it. And it was one of the rewards because there is a moment in Voyager where they get this and they use it to travel quite a bit of distance with it before it burns out. And on the major reward sheet, if this happens to be on your roster, you could remove it from your roster to gain that reward. So it's quite good to still take with you. Our 1 Starship construction card in here is the Ablative Generator. It is restricted to a unique or mirror unique ship with a hull of 4 or greater and a shield value of 3 or greater. Its cost is equal to the ship's printed hull value plus 2. It is not restricted to just Voyager, so you can put this on all kinds of ships. And don't forget, even though it's dual faction, mirror, and fed, you do not pay faction penalty for Starship construction cards. So at the start of the combat phase, you disable your shields and remove your cloak token. And while this is active, essentially, it will reduce up to 5 damage that is dealt to you, but you place critical hit tokens. We picked something that was in a lot of the ship packs that were just kind of laying around instead of just using mission tokens or storing the damage cards. We wanted to kind of get use out of tokens that are just kind of sitting around. So for that, you put the critical hit tokens on it until it has 5, then the card gets discarded. Our 1 ambassador is Neelix. He is dual faction independent fed for 3 points. He is quite awesome. You target a ship. If they accept, based on the ship that moves within range 1 of the other one, you place a battle stations or an evade. It's your choice which one you want to place. And on the deny effect, he chooses one of the standard tokens, evade, scan, or battle stations, and you get to keep it there during the end phase. That's if they deny the actual thing. He also has some other use on your roster in the campaign. You can actually disable him to gain, I believe, resource tokens, and I think something else. Specifically, I know his resource tokens, which are very good for the construct action. But you get some other use out of him by just putting him on the roster, which is quite fun. But he is very good. The rules cards we've already gone over, and these are the rules, which you can see on the channel. So I don't need to go through those. And then you have the maneuver dials and maneuver cards. Last up, we'll look at the roster. I want to show you some stuff for this. So, we've talked about the roster before, but the roster lets you take your starship, build it up based off of the printed upgrade slots multiplied by the printed hull value. So in the case of Voyager, Voyager would have a 20 upgrade roster. You can take any starship you want. Just remember that it is built around you using an Intrepid class or a class similar to that. It will get harder as you take ships with lower hull, or if you take something like the Equinox or the Raven even. So just be wary of that. The campaign is obviously extremely difficult at times, and your ship will explode more than once. But that is okay. There is rules in there for that, just like how Voyager's blown up multiple times. So we were talking about a lot of the rewards. You have basic rewards, which you get no matter what, and then you have advanced rewards, which the Delta Master chooses to give you or not. This probably is based off of them like rewarding you for your hard work or trying to play more thematic to whatever the scenario they have crafted to you. But on here, a lot of these are one use only. They represent the specific instances of Voyager gaining some type of technology or getting help from some other source to sling them great distances across the Delta Quadrant. In this case, there are a few that are more reusable, like traded for goods, must disable Neelix Ambassador on your roster, gain 1 resource token and 1 Star Shard token. These are very good. The Star Shard tokens are used to double the base light year rewards from the basic ones. The resource tokens can be spent to make the construct action easier. So this is quite useful. But you see on here we have the remove the transwarp coil Borg upgrade to travel 20,000 light years. Considering you have to travel 70,000 to complete the campaign, that's extremely good. You also have removing Kess from your roster to travel 9,000 light years. That's where she uses her psychic powers to sling you across Borg space. There's a lot of neat stuff in here for just that. As for the construct action, while we were talking about it, where is that one at? Here we go. Construct action. It's an action available when you're trying to complete active projects using missions. This is the main action that you have to use when building your auxiliary ship. So action, choose one. Either disable a crew upgrade equipped to the ship or place 2 time tokens on a crew upgrade equipped to the ship and spend a resource token. Remove 1 mission token from an active project. Once the last mission token has been removed, the active project is complete. Certain missions will say, this is the active project with the project level of blank. They'll tell you exactly what it is. That's how many mission tokens you put onto the card or the planet or the starship or whatever it is that the mission dictates. That's what you're removing. But again, this is an action to actually remove them, so it takes time in the game. The resource tokens help you do it by not having to disable more of your crew upgrades to do this. So it helps quite a lot. And again, the Star Trek token doubles the standard rewards. So a lot of fun stuff there. Resource tokens have another effect though. The Federation player can use these when using the construct action, or at setup, you can spend a resource token to remove either an auxiliary power token from beside your ship or a disabled upgrade token from a card equipped to your ship. So this works good if any of the rewards keep giving them to you and you just have them around. I believe some of the planets you can get them from as well. You can use them before going into a mission when a lot of your crew just happen to be down. This works pretty well when you're fighting the macro virus mission. It disables your crew members constantly. So when you get into the next mission, everything's going to be taking a nap. You can start spending those tokens to get a lot of them up instead of having to slow roll or waste your actions. But that's it for Federation Faction Pack 2, Lost in the Delta Quadrant. I hope you guys have picked it up as well and try out the campaign. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can hit me up on Facebook or the comment section, whichever you'd like. Bye, guys.